4 or 5 months, the kid would start to open up about how insecure he was with himself and how awful. But like, you know, that kind of thing I don't think can be done with a huge organization. I think like one-on-one intervention.
I agree.
Works best.
Like I was talking with the mentoring, like
someone
an
that you
example of
trust.
somebody who I think that a lot of kids would want to turn to. Just from like knowing, you know, you talk to a lot of your students, people I know that are also your students. You know, you talk to them still, and you're friends with them to an extent. So I think that's really important to have someone like that that's older than you, like big brother, big sister type situation.
I was in the women's movement, and that was a transforming moment for everybody I knew, and I think for the society as a whole. And it enabled us to become comfortable with our sexuality and with other aspects of our lives in a way that we weren't before. When I was in the women's movement, I personally felt it was a human movement rather than a women's movement, because I felt that so many of the issues directly concerned men.
I agree.
But one of the things that I have always regretted is that there wasn't a men's movement that came up dealing with the same issues.
Totally, I agree. I think that it would be really important for guys not to feel like they have to go up to you and tell you, hey, I slept with this many girls. I mean, guys that don't do that feel weird not being like that. A lot of the guys that I asked to come today didn't want to come because they don't talk about that, because the only way they know how to talk about that is in a way that's demeaning to their girlfriends or to people they've been with, and they're not like that. So I agree, I think there should be a way of making it accessible for men to talk about in a way that's not the way you get it in like the gross out comedies, you know?
Well, in follow, I mean, part of this conversation seems to be goes away from the issue. One of the things we've looked at and focused on, or tried to focus on, is the sexual rights of youth. And the question really is, you know, and I think we're still skirting around it, the question was asked, did you feel that this was basically a given right, or something that was just natural to you? So that, how then can we, you know, there might be organizational routes and such, but how do you then get to, you know, to young people to get to a point where it's not for adults or others to say, you have these rights, or we'll cede you these rights, we'll give you these rights.
To a point where it's ingrained in you.
That's right.
That's when you're talking from
That's
childhood.
So that brings us, I think correctly, back to, in some ways, what Dr. Weitzman was saying, which is, and I think what Mike is saying, what?
The rights of infants.
Yeah, that you have, but it's a conundrum, because on the other hand, if you don't have adults who are capable of raising healthy children, how do you get the children? Yeah. And that was and maybe end up on that piece, is at the end, Wright was saying that you've got to do something to help parents work with children.
I don't feel completely comfortable with the idea that you just have to have a critical mass of healthy people and it all happens, because somehow the reactionary politics always intervenes before the process.
And I think so. I think a one-on-one. Sorry, I think a one-on-one basis instead of a big movement is much more effective on that level in terms of ingraining it in somebody and making them comfortable. Just sitting around talking about it in a good way is more beneficial than a political rally sometimes.
I want to remind people about Wright's admonition about work, not politics. You cannot do this through political agitation. That's not how things will change. And I think, while I resonate with the demand for rights from, say, the lesbian, gay, bisexual, etc. communities, this is not how we're going to do this. When we talk about rights here, we cannot politicize it. Rights' insight there should not be ignored when we think about this subject.
Right, but the denial of the right is already heavily politicized. So how do you
I
find
understand
that.
How do you work
You
with that?
resist it. You resist it. You can't organize. You know, Wright's biggest fear, if you read The Murder of Christ, he said, someday people will be marching down the streets with "Work Democracy" banners. And that's not what he's talking about. He's talking about doing the work.
I really, and I agree, and I really think that there's a huge problem with political advocacy in these days anyway. Like there was a huge protest at NYU recently at the Kimmel Center for who knows what, like everything and in the entire universe they wanted. And almost no students got behind them because it was stupid, and they're pretending that they're still in the 60s and 70s, and they don't know what they're even talking about. And political action has become part of the media-driven community anyway. It's become glamorized and fetishized, and it's become really unuseful. And I don't think that's really a way to get things done in this day and age.
So I think we're basically reaching the end. Any final questions or final things?
Yes.
I don't know if this is a good question, but how does religion play into all this?
Actually, that's a great question, because well, for instance, my boyfriend and a bunch of my friends, but my boyfriend is from Pennsylvania, like not rural Pennsylvania. There's a big educated population where he's from, and a lot of people are in literature and like in the literary world and the art world, but there's also a huge conservative population. The majority, I visited him, the majority of his friends all go to church on Sunday. A lot of them are waiting for marriage, but they'll do anything else before that because clearly that doesn't count, according to religious doctrines. And they'll still joke about it and like talk about it in like the kind of like ha-ha funny way. And religion plays a huge part in it, in that they'll judge other people who, like, religion creates judgment in this and makes it into something that's not a right. And religion makes it into something that is completely wrong. A lot of religion, at least. Actually, I can't think of any religion that says it's alright. So, and I think religion is going to always be an excuse for people. I think religion's always going to be an excuse for people to say that sexual pleasure is wrong, and it's only for procreation and that. And I think religion is always going to hold a place, like even if we got everyone who wasn't religious in the society to say sex is okay, everything's okay, like it's good for you, it's a right, even if we got everyone who wasn't religious in society to say that, and then you still had that little group of people that held on to religion, you would still have a problem because they're saying religion is saying it's wrong. And I think religion is a huge part, when a child is raised with religion being a religion that's saying sex is wrong before marriage and having their parents enforce that in them through church and through school, I think you're getting, it's just another form of not being raised by a family that is teaching you what your rights are. It's another part of not being raised in a way that's conducive to the sexual rights of adolescents and adults.
Is there anyone who hasn't had a chance?
The only thing I wanted to say was that this, what you favor, like young people, counseling young people, is exactly what Wright did. He was educating young people and have them informing other people, each other, except in case of birth control or abortion issues, because he said something should be talked to with the doctor. But I think that you're very much right, because it's easier to talk with each other, and in case of, say, young people where they have experience from, some are open enough so that you can say, okay, we teach them how to talk about it in an informed and good way.
And I mean, we have, at school, for example, we have peer counselors. In high school we had that too. No one uses them because it seems like a dorky idea, but if that was more acceptable, and if we as a society made that more acceptable, that would probably be the best way to reach people.
No, and the other thing is just what I thought about this discussion is, like, it is a right of infants. There's no discussion. I mean, I think here there's no discussion about that. And the best thing you can do is behave yourself as if it is a right and nothing that we have to give them. We can't give it to young people. It's there.
Exactly.
There's no reason to find something new about it. It's there.
You just have to not inhibit it.
It's a I think that's crucial. We're talking about a natural right.
And
the issue is
something
how
don't inhibit it.
How do we protect that natural right so that it doesn't become
And
something that young people have or their allies have to fight for?
As adults, and as people that are raising children, as people that are around children, I mean, I babysit, I'm a camp counselor, I have younger children that trust me. You have to just be able to protect what they already have and not let it go veer off course. And that's the best you can do, because it is a right, and if you just
I mean, I think what women in, we're talking about feminism, we're fighting for, particularly in the second wave, in the wave of feminism in the late 50s and into the 60s, was a sense of, and that was crucial, that it wasn't about, there was a political struggle, but it was also about basically, insisting on,
what is
natural rights,
right.
not things that we don't have but we want. It's something we have that's been.
Same thing in the civil rights movement. It's